Hi and welcome to Spiritual Link, the podcast. A podcast about how developing spiritual well-being can help you in your daily life and how that can enhance your confidence in who you are and what you are. The podcast is hosted by Ines and Tor. Ines is a development medium with over 30 years of experience in the field, and Tor has been her apprentice since 2013. In this episode, we talk even more about regression and meditation. You can support us by sharing the episode on your social media channels, subscribing to our podcast, and leaving a review. Remember, you can always find us on @SpiritualLinkCo on Instagram. Lovely to see you again, Ines. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Super to see you, Thor. So wonderful to see you. Actually, very, very wonderful to see you. I was very interested in all the new news you had for me. With the what was it? The TED Talks.
Yeah. So we had like a TED Talk style event at work where I talked about meditation, and I ended the talk with guiding people through like a 1 minute meditation. And
Brilliant. Yes.
that is really hard,
Yeah.
because I called it a bit of like a meditation snack, because it's not really a meditation.
You had a sniff. Wasn't even a snack by the sounds of it.
It was like a sniff. And I was just like, I was sort of, because it was supposed to be 1 minute and it ended up being 2, because I sort of started.
Yes.
And then time just went by and you're like, I cannot get this down to 1 minute. So it's going to have to be 2, basically. I just did like a couple of deep breaths and sort of felt like a calmness wrapping themselves around them.
Yeah.
And that was basically 2 minutes gone.
Good. Yeah, exactly. Yes, precisely. Well, good.
Yeah, no, that was really fun.
Yeah. And what you also mentioned that individuals spoke on their subjects. So there was also a variety of different backgrounds as well.
Yeah. So one person talked about, they talked about like social media and how sometimes social media is like geared towards creating what's called like echo chambers. So what does that mean? It means that you don't get information from other viewpoints. You're only fed your own kind of viewpoints, which is quite interesting. Then there was one on like the economy, which is obviously very topical at the moment.
Yes.
And then there was also one about science and research and what makes research good research, basically. So it was a good variety. Yeah.
It's interesting. Yes, very interesting. I think that's always the problem. What you said, getting information from, say, a different viewpoint, a different outlook. Even when you're saying with the economy, it's very topical. But when I speak to some bankers and so on, their opinion varies so much.
Yeah.
Some is totally doom and gloom, and others, oh, don't worry about it. And you're wondering on what do they base their information? Or I think it's more down to their own attitude of mind. We are not just what we eat or drink, but it's also our thought patterns that formulate our optimism.
Yeah. I mean,
that's interesting.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and she gave me some news, and we were talking about COVID, and I was like, yeah, I'm a willful optimist.
Yes.
And she's not a willful optimist. She's a bit like, going into tier 2. I was like, yeah, but it'll be fine. I'm a willful optimist. And she said, oh, well, that's very typical of you, Tor. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
That is very typical of me.
Well, let's hope that rubs off on all of our listeners.
That is the plan.
Yeah, that is the plan. Absolutely. Yes. And speaking of that, the meditation that you spoke on, and of course, with a spiritual link, the basis of any wellness for our own being depends on the ability to relax. And with our visual meditations, what we're hoping to achieve, of course, is to not just to relax, but to go a step further, and to understand the whys, understanding ourselves as well. So we come to just briefly that our home, of course, is our meditative palace, which doesn't mean, as you maybe agree, Thor, doesn't mean lamps, candles, or incense. That's not really what it's about. It's about yourself. It's a place where you can close the door and be as you want to be. It's a sanctuary from the sound, from action. But of course, these palace gates, of course, do crash at times. But with patience and practice, these gates can and will be rebuilt and become stronger. This is, of course, your own inner self. And from within that meditative palace, we individually are able to bring forward an order and perception from within ourselves as to the different levels of happiness. What you just said, you're optimistic. Why? We have different levels of happiness, different levels of enjoyment, and certainly different levels of importance. What is important? What really, really is important? So from that area, of course, the importance, of course, and the visualization, we gradually teach our thinking mind to discard, this constant flow of thoughts that are in our mind all the time. And when we're able to discard these thoughts, we're leaving that inner mind, which is the deeper thinking mind, free to reconnect with the spiritual self within. And when we do that, that's when we automatically open the sixth and the seventh sense. The sixth sense is the survival situation of being aware of danger, being aware of perhaps a decision we should be making, and so on. But what this does, this in turn, through that type of an exercise, which meditation is, brings forward the strength and the confidence within ourselves. And that is so important, which reminds me very much of your diligence, Thor, that you meditate twice a day. I would actually say you meditate 3 times a day, because you have your is it gym?
Yeah.
You have the gym. Concentration, prelude to meditation. 1. You meditate in the morning as well?
Yeah.
2. You meditate in the evening?
Yeah.
3. The concentration might be different the other 2 times to lead you into meditation, but it is still exactly the same. And I would wager anything that when you're in the gym and you're concentrating on your next exercise, you concentrate only on how your arms are, your posture, the focal point of what you're trying to achieve, and that is super concentration. So actually you're meditating 3 times. And that is why you have, what did you say, optimism?
Willful optimism.
Willful, of course, yes. I'm going to be optimistic. This is so good. I love lockdown. Whoo, hoo, hoo. Willful optimism. I like it. That's good. And as we said before we continue with our regression, we never have said that it should be how long it should be. It's individual. Say 10, 15 minutes. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. And of course, it will not happen instantly. Even if you've done it a long time, it can still go flat. That's all right. But it is a journey. It's a journey into the depth of ourselves. Again, we come now to regression, of course, is a journey that into the depths of ourselves that is fulfilling and rewarding. It becomes a new way of thinking, a new perspective, and also the way you think about yourself, about your life. So it's really very, very important. So we went again from meditation and to your willful optimism, Thor, and to, of course, regression. And in this willful optimism that Thor as a human being brings forward, of course, he's also tapping in to other periods of time. All of our lives are not happy-go-lucky. We can be hung, drawn, and quartered, burned, starved, diseased, ugly, too pretty, or too handsome for anything else. These are all lessons. So it's not always easy sailing. And sometimes we don't always tap into the most pleasant of situations. But whatever we do tap into, there is a reason for it. Very much a reason for it. So the regression, what do you feel, Thor, before I get on my soapbox?
What's the question?
Just generally speaking, because you've regressed very successfully.
Yeah.
And of course, the areas that you have shown are ones of strength,
Yes.
determination, are they not?
Mostly, I would say so, yeah.
Yes, strength and determination. And how do you feel the strength and determination fits into your life now?
Well, so I did tell someone at some point that my sort of main guide is like this Roman general. And he
Yes.
was like, ah, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? You know, because in so many ways, like I suppose I'm quite disciplined. You know, I'm sort of just sort of forge forward and like do my own thing, and like this is where I want to.
A Roman officer did not do their own thing.
That is very true. They probably didn't, but I'm wildly guessing they had some discipline.
Oh, total discipline, yes.
That is, they did not do their own thing. They were probably quite
Courage,
loyal, weren't
yes.
they?
Oh, to the emperor, absolutely, yes. And they followed that meticulously. But so do you. You follow your guidance
Yeah.
to the letter, don't you?
Yeah. Well, they've told me to eat more greens, so I
Yes.
am now eating more greens.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know.
Right. Why not?
Why not?
Yes.
But yes, I do follow that through, and I do definitely think that that determination does pour into my life. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Does it help, from your point of view, has it helped to know that you have such strong guidance behind you, or such strong lives that you were made, that was made accessible to you?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's gotten me through some. I mean, you know, challenge is also a part of life. You know, going through difficulties are a part of life.
And the Romans had their difficulties without saying they were, well, they conquered a lot, didn't they? But
Yeah.
but they had to do it in the name of their emperor.
Yeah.
You're doing it in the name of, let's say, spirit, because it's your pattern of karma. You're
Yeah.
trying to fulfill what has been laid out before you.
Yeah. Yeah. So so I definitely feel like that strength is coming true, and it's helping me to get through those difficult times, you
Excellent.
know. Yeah.
That's interesting.
I think so.
That's very interesting, because
How about for you, Ines?
yes, it has. One really interesting incident. We tend to have a fear, and I was so afraid of dogs, so afraid of dogs. Say, as a child, of course, you're more afraid because of your height anyway. And then even later on, is something with teeth did not turn me on. And my first regression, because my last life was as a Native American, and I was a hunter. And anyway, my demise, I was either attacked by a bear with big teeth. They always have big teeth. Or a pack of wolves. But once I saw this, I actually, because I understood, okay, that's why I'm afraid. I understood that. Actually, these points I'm going to make in a moment, I no longer have any fear. I'm respectful of a barking dog, but it doesn't create fear. So that is what the regressions helped me to do. It also made me very aware, let's say with needles, they're trying to give you this blood test now for the COVID. No, but they're giving you home kits. That means you get that little teeny weeny bit of razor and you slit your own finger. Mwah, mwah. So as a hunter, I should be brave, not fearful of blood. Whew, it is the last thing on the planet I will do to myself. And I think it's because I've had my turn at being a hunter, and that's it. I don't need that anymore. I don't know, but that's the way my mind was working. So at least I have an excuse.
Yeah.
I feel I have a valid excuse.
Right.
But I wouldn't mind sometime, Thor, to take you back into another regression sometime, okay?
I'd love that.
Yeah, I think there's a bit more to uncover. That has use for this life.
Yeah. Love that.
Okay. Well, anyway, the whole purpose, of course, of regression is who and what you did. I'm talking of you as a royal you did with that particular life, with the particular life that we regress into, and how it now reflects on your attitude and your present situation. So we're always dealing with the benefit for the quality of our life now. Our life now is the most important thing. So regression would help our life now. But very few people, of course, know what they're looking for. Sometimes it's, oh, that looks interesting. I read a book. That's fine. It doesn't make any difference what the trigger happens to be, because in the end, that trigger is used by your inner self. That is the spirit within you to say to the physical self, come on, you're interested. You're really, really curious. Have a go. Find out what it is. So everything is brought out. Every single thing is brought out to help you along your karmic path and to give you the strength to go forward and to understand the purpose of the situation in your present day life. What I also wanted to move on to, this is needs more depth, but I'm going to just introduce it. There is another very important point to regression. Let's say someone has been ill is ill for a very long time, or perhaps has had pain, is in pain. Doctors have been consulted. They don't have a tumor. They can't find anything. Nothing is found whatsoever. Nothing whatsoever is found that is wrong with them, or is able to help in their, let's say, in their medical condition. Or perhaps there's no cure, that type of situation. Now, what has sometimes happened when we are in such a distressed part of our lives, such as terrible illness, pain, or so on, it is very logical to try to link in or to find out about more alternative viewpoints and alternative ways of doing things. So spirituality is often tapped into at that hour of need. So if it is, I'm only giving a possible suggestive reason for doing that. Perhaps the individual starts wondering if perhaps it isn't something that might have happened in a previous time. Something in their karmic pattern that isn't quite got rid of. And in many cases, I can say this as it has been proven to myself, it has certainly been the case. And another time, if we get a reply from any of yourselves that are interested in hearing some of the situations, we will certainly talk about it. Anyway, regression in these cases are much simpler, as the diseased body or mind has already made their selection. Your mind has already discriminated as to what it is looking for. And so the relevant period of time should be homed in on a much easier and quicker method. A selection, so to speak, where the inner self has already been established. Sometimes, just sometimes, healing can occur instantaneous when the mind has seen the incident again. And again, we can reiterate some of the cases that we have been familiar with. Once the mind has seen this again, healing can occur in these instances, or can occur because as you have gone from the life where the accident or illness occurred, your karma moves forward. You've died, your karma still moves forward. As you have gone from the life where the accident, illness has occurred, your karma moves forward, nothing changes, it continues, it does not stop, it does not alter. So the change has to happen in whatever life the situation occurred, and not when you are in spirit. It is, of course, not just the seeing that gives healing, but it has triggered off a new philosophy, which is powerful enough to bring the thoughts of the individual to heal themselves, i.e., immune system. It is the same with healing, which we have mentioned as such as healing. When we are in receipt of healing, or we're giving ourselves healing, laying on of hands and so on. All one is doing is to disturb, in one sense, the healing within that person so that it can become active. So when one heals through seeing, through regressive states, then this is just another trigger for the mind to bring healing about itself. So if we go back to say the individual with a pain, and let us say he has a pain in his side and went to doctors and so on. Anyway, no, nothing wrong, Anyway, we regress him back in time and find out that he has actually been stabbed by a sword and was killed in that lifetime through that stabbing. The person who has regressed now sees himself with a sword stabbing him and feels actually the excruciating pain in his side. Now, at this point, however, he is in a position to either withdraw the sword or to cover the wound or relieve the pain or perhaps otherwise relieve the situation. So thus, having seen it once more and now knowing the reason for his pain, that he has been stabbed, his own philosophy and mind can start the healing process. That means by releasing it, he will still die, obviously. He is dead. He's just regressing into that period of time. He releases the sword, puts a plaster on it or a cloth, whatever it is. The pain is subsided, of course, psychologically in his own philosophical mind, which starts the healing process of pain. And as I've already mentioned, and this pain release can occur instantaneous because you have seen it. You know what is caused and you fixed it. You made it better. You did not go into death with pain on your mind. You're now going to go into death without pain. Where, however, let us say the poor body has deteriorated. And now when we talk about deterioration, let us say somebody has a debilitating illness that is degenerative of muscle loss, and so on and so forth. So they are now regressing, perhaps, and so on and so forth. So, however, if they see the poor body has deteriorated to such a degree, brittle bones or wasted muscles, then spirit can take care of the initial cause of the disease, such as when they passed away in that state, that they were either in pain, in fear, or whatever it is, but is not able to renew the body. So then you are reborn again. Your karma goes on. You're finishing a karmic lesson. So we're not able to rejuvenate muscles or rejuvenate bones or something. We have to live on that, but it will come to a halt. It will come to a halt. It is not able to renew the body. And what I say this to you, Thor, when I asked you about TED Talks, and you said people with PhDs and blah, 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 physics, so on. But doctors don't realize just how powerful the mind is and that it can hold on to so many situations. So when we talk of regression, we talk of something very, very real, a very, very real state. There are many, of course, who would scoff, as there always will be, but there is much to the inner self that is and never will be known by science. When we talk of regression, it is a basic need, it is a basic situation which we are seeking out. And this, of course, is essential to our basic motivation as human beings, a motivation that is brought about by your inner self, by your spirit, because our karma is ongoing. It does not skip a beat. So with that in mind, excuse me, we are therefore able to see, to feel what happened in another lifetime, alter it a little bit, so that the quality of our life now is to the best of our possible ability. So regression is not only, oh, I was Nefertiti, oh, wasn't I beautiful? I think it's delightful, it's happy, it's frivolous. But when we talk about life itself, all of its implications, regression has an awful lot to offer. We can hold on to the fact that we were with a Roman army as an example. Hold on to the fact that you were a hunter or huntress, whatever it is. It makes you as you are. It gives you sustenance. It gives you depth. It makes you more than, maybe this time, maybe you're the kitchen maid. So what? That's a new learning cue. Last time you were the chief. This time you're not. Doesn't matter. Of course not. So with regression, which I think we ought to go on again next week as well, because regression is moving back, but we can also regress forward. And that is where there's a fine dividing line that with regression, if you're having regression done by someone who is trained or knowledgeable of that, of course, then it becomes a reality. Anyway, I'm going to stop on that because that is a lot of
that was
yes, a lot of knowledge around that, especially with health. Health, money is so important, but if you have no health, it does not matter.
Yeah,
it does not matter. Also, what we can also find through regressive states, if we have abused our body, such as abusing meaning I'm not just talking about alcohol or drugs or eating too much, but we can also find out, let's just go back to eating too much, because I'm just remember one individual that was with me, and they were, their last life, they wanted to lose weight. And the main problem with their weight was that they had to eat before they went to bed. They just had to eat. So anyway, we went back into regression, and it was found the period of time that was brought forward wasn't all that long ago. Not at all long ago. Maybe not even 100 years. Anyway, they were a gardener, and very poorly paid, of course. And they were all hungry, always hungry. It also happened to be in Britain. I don't know if it was England, but in Britain, and they were always hungry. And the person always remembered going to bed hungry. So they died. Their karma hasn't altered. They are different now, of course. They have more money, they have more security, but they're still learning. But what they bring back from that other lifetime they died is hunger, the thought of food. I like going to bed on a full stomach. And once they found out what the reason was, they were able to control their eating habits at night, and they lost. Because if you have a good breakfast and a good lunch, then you can usually run it off or do something else with it without going to bed on a heavy tummy. So that was also a huge help to that personality.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, it is. And there's a couple of other things as well where, let's say, the reward system sometimes in life, we considered rewards when, let's say there's a beautiful model or something. She was, let's see, do we have time?
We might say maybe we'll save it for next week.
Yes, I think so. Yes, I think so. Because just to rush into something which is so interesting and so, God, I don't know.
Let's save it for next week.
Yes, I think so. Would be a shame.
That was so interesting, and I can't wait to listen to that back and take that in all again. So, Ines, what's the positive message for the week?
Okay, positive is one of thought. It's a little bit more of thought. We all have a responsibility in life, and everyone, I'm certain, is approached somewhere, whatever, to help someone, or listen, what do you think about this? So my thing is, people may not remember exactly what you did. They may not remember exactly what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel.
Mm.
We do hold on to this feeling of God, that was really good. That made me feel so good. Thank you. So to be aware, we have a responsibility on what we say to other people.
Yeah.
Each one of us.
100%.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ines, for
That's
another
okay.
lovely Friday. And we'll be back again then, next Friday.
Excellent. Take good care of yourself.
You too. Thank you for listening to this episode of Spiritual Link, the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or wants us to explore a topic even further, please reach out on our Instagram account @SpiritualLinkCo.